Hi, Democrats. Today is Monday, October 2nd, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Monday. All righty, we have just finished our road trip to Victory Tour where we traveled all over the state, including marching in a parade in Oklahoma City and attending the Diamond Donkey event in Stillwater. It has been quite the past 10 days, but it's Monday. So I have to, give you an update of where we are as a nation with regards to mass shootings. We are at 600. There have been 600 mass shootings in 2023. And again, the definition of mass shootings are where at least four people were shot in addition to the shooter. There have been 600 mass shootings in our nation. And gun violence, gun deaths are the number one killer of children in America. So far, we've had 1,300 kids be killed by guns in the United States this year. 1,300 kids killed by guns. Not necessarily all of them in mass shootings, but gun violence is out of control. I wish we were in Connecticut where they just passed wide-ranging gun control laws, but maybe we'll get there. On a national front, the government is still open. So this weekend, the clock ticked, and it looked like we were going to be up against another government shutdown. But at the last minute, the Democrats saved Kevin McCarthy, and we got a continuing resolution, which is sort of a stopgap measure. But for right now, the government is still open. The WIC program and SNAP program for children to be able to continue to eat, Social Security, veterans benefits, all of those are still in effect right now because the government is still open. That just means for the next 30 days, we're going to have to hear more and more about it. There has to be a better way. But right now, the government is still open, and that's a huge relief. Now, come back to Oklahoma and talk about the government being open. So our legislators in the State House and State Senate are going back into special session starting tomorrow to take up three tax measures that the governor has requested that they come back and talk about. He wants to do some tax rebates. He wants to give back some money. There's all kinds of things that he wants to do. But the leader of the Senate has asked for the governor to come in and give them a little bit of information. So he wants to cut personal income tax. Well, that will create a $400 billion gap in our budget. And so what the legislature is asking, come and explain how do we fill that gap? How do we make up that money? What is the plan? And from what I am understanding is that the governor has declined the offer to come in and provide more information. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to have our own little legislative financial, I don't want to call it a war, but tug of war that's getting ready to start happening in our state tomorrow. I think it's kind of weird. The governor is going on all the morning shows and all the talk shows telling people that this is what his plan is and that he wants it to happen and that he's all about transparency. And when our legislators said, okay, great, come and explain to us, he's declined the invitation. So I'm not real sure how transparent that is, but that's what he's rocking with. So we'll see how that goes. But speaking of saving money in the state budget, the superintendent of public instruction announced last week that he wants to cut the Oklahoma State Department of Education's budget by $47 million. Everybody knows that our schools are already underfunded. I'm not even real sure what that's about. I guess it's because he wants people to talk about him. And I promised you guys that if ever I was going to talk about him, I was going to make sure that I reminded you of his dereliction of duties. Right? So he wants to cut the budget by $47 million. And one of the first things that he wants to cut is just let's spend no money on textbooks. Now, from what I understand, a lot of schools have textbooks that only go up to, a lot of schools in Oklahoma have textbooks that only go up to George W. Bush. All right, we're on our third president since then that are not in the textbooks. Third. Now, am I glad the kids aren't learning about the last guy's presidency? Yeah, but the reality is they need to learn. They need to be up to date on everything. So we have already outdated textbooks, and the superintendent of public instruction wants to spend $0 on textbooks. Again, feels like and smells like a stunt. And I don't know if he thinks if he keeps coming up with different stunts that no one is going to remember that he was the one who didn't put any guardrails on Class Wallet. We remember. We remember. That no one's going to remember that he didn't apply for enough federal grants to fully fund schools. We remember. He's not doing the job that he was elected to do. And I hesitate to say elected, but he's not doing the job that he's getting a paycheck for. And if I have to talk about him, and I do when he says stuff like cut the budget by $47 million, I'm going to remind you guys that he is not the guy for the job. It's incredibly frustrating to live in a state that acts as if we're not part of a nation and acts as if we're not smart enough to know what they're doing. We are smart enough to know what they're doing. Now we have to be smart enough to engage our friends, neighbors, and families into engaging in the political process and voting for common sense. That's what we have to do. We have to engage everybody we know and get them to vote. And if they need somebody to vote for, consider, are you that someone? Are you that someone who needs to run so that your family and friends will vote? Or do you know someone who needs to run so your family and friends will vote? What has to happen is that more of us need to participate in the electoral process. All righty, thanks for joining me, and I'll be back here tomorrow at 4:15.